It is Thursday, May 7th at 6:30. I'm calling the Planning Commission meeting to order. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second order of business here, I'm just going to read real quick, is the role of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission consists of 5 residents appointed by the City Council. The Commission administers the comprehensive plan, zoning, and subdivision regulations. The Commission conducts public hearings and provides recommendations to the City Council. It is the City Council who may approve or deny land use applications. Item number 4 is approval of agenda. Assuming no changes,
No changes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And sorry, John, did you want a roll call, or is
Yes,
Peter online?
thank you for mentioning that. So again, we mentioned this before the video started. Peter DeMuth will be attending remotely. Once he jumps online, he'll be visible, or hopefully if that works. But with anytime we have a commission member that's attending online, we have to do a roll call vote for everything.
Okay.
So, yes.
Roll call vote for the approval of the agenda.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Sargent,
Yes.
Mr. Crossland,
Yes.
Mr. Grover.
Yes.
Mr. Brown is a yes as well.
Yeah, and Mr. Vice Chair, it's approved 4-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This is just routine, previously discussed items enacted with one motion. In this case, all we have for consideration is the Planning Commission meetings from April 2nd.
I guess I'll move approval of Planning Commission minutes of April 2nd, 2026.
I'll second.
Perfect. We will do a roll call vote, and we'll start down there with Mr. Grover. Approved. Mr. Grosslin.
Aye.
Mr. Brown says aye as well. And Mr. Sargent.
Aye.
And Mr. Vice Chair, Peter is online and is allowed to talk, so if,
Commissioner DeMuth, do you want to vote on the consent agenda?
and Peter, you're muted.
The consent agenda carries 4-0. We'll be moving on, and hopefully Mr. DeMuth can join us. Item number 6 is the open forum. These are public comments limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. Is there anyone here to speak for open forum, or is everyone here for items on the agenda? Yeah.
You're on the agenda.
Something on the agenda?
Yeah.
Which one is that under?
The first public hearing.
The first.
Public hearing, yeah.
Okay. Doesn't appear anyone is here for the open forum. No one's online as well, besides Mr. DeMuth.
We have one person online. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Nothing.
Perfect. All right. Moving on to item number 7, council update from April 14th and April 28th.
Okay. So for the 14th, we had a discussion about Stevens Park and the stage cover. That really kind of centered around what types of cover and how we're going to move forward with it. I think we got a couple bids to engineer the changes. And so we approved that. Territorial concept plan. That, I think, there was a lot of discussion centered around the roads. And there wasn't a lot of pushback that I remember. Engineering design guidelines, we currently have, on occasion, we have inconsistencies between ordinances and the engineering design guidelines. So this was to look at having the ordinances refer to the engineering guidelines. I think the big takeaway was that so we would do that, but the engineering design guidelines would also need to be approved by the council, design guideline changes. Community surveys, we kind of finalized the questions in there. Parkway neighborhood agreement, this was an odd thing. It was to, I believe, to assure the lender that we were on board to get the property. The problem was the way it was worded. The council had a concern it would put us on the hook to guarantee that we would get the property. So it was not approved. And then we had a closed session on a property purchase. That's the north side of 113th to get access through to the roundabout. We had a closed session on approving a bid price on a used ladder truck. We had a closed session on negotiating the right-of-way for the south side of Dayton Parkway to get at the Parkway neighborhood, that piece of property that we've been trying to get. So that was the 14th. 28th, the Opiden property. There was a lot of concern about the fact that it was pretty much the same conversation that you guys had. Concern is how close it is to residential. And there was, pros and cons thrown around. And in the end, it was given 3 votes to move forward with it. We had discussed a few items to minimize the impact. There was a personal policy update that was pretty minor. I think most of it was around return to work testing or approval. And then there was approval on a planner to fill in some level of a planner, and then a part-time HR position. Then there was approval of the current strategic plan that we've been working on for a while. AT&T lease renewal for the antennas on the tower. That wasn't approved because we didn't have to renew it. It's good till, I think, 2038, and it was actually going to reduce the revenue stream. And then there was a closed session on property negotiation for that same property that I mentioned in the last meeting. And then we had Zach's performance review, which was closed. That's it. Questions?
None for me.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, then we are moving on to agenda item 8A in public hearing on a variance to increase the maximum front yard building setback and site plan review for Dayton Assisted Living.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So this is, as you mentioned, it's an application for a variance in the site plan for Dayton Assisted Living. This is located on an unaddressed property off of Balsam Lane, immediately south of Rain Tree Plaza. I'll kind of go over these in summary and then in a little bit more detail. So again, The property is zoned general mixed use for Balsam Lane. This zoning district is intended to promote kind of a walkable community or more urban community. So it's encouraged that buildings be closer to the street and that we have sidewalks and trails and I'm going to say more street interaction. So again, the application is for a variance and for a site plan. So the commission's first introduction of this project was at a concept plan review in December 2025. With this concept plan, it's meant to be kind of a high-level review. There's no formal action or approval or denial. Comments or summary of the comments from both the council and the commission. I should say at that time at the concept plan review, this was proposed to be a 3-story building with 58 units. Council and commission comments were opposition to 3 stories or support for 2 stories that were up against, I think maybe the screen won't come back. Opposition to 3 stories up against single-family homes, but support for 2 stories against single-family and 3 stories along Balsam. There's support for the variance to exceed the maximum front yard setback and a recommended shared driveway access with Raintree Plaza. So you fast forward a few months, the current application from what was back in December to now in May, it's gone from a 3-story building to a 1-story building and from 58 units to 22 units. So I would say the developer has listened to what the comments were from the commission and council and has made quite an alteration in the size of the building. Okay, critical issues for this: 2 items: the variance to the front yard setback, and then the shared driveway easement. With the variance, so again, this zoning district is intended to encourage more of a pedestrian feel to it, with buildings pushed towards the front. Within the zoning district, we have a minimum front yard setback of 15 feet and a maximum setback of 30 feet. Due to the shape of the property, it's really not practical to comply with a 30-foot setback, and so the applicant is requesting a variance to exceed the maximum setback from 30 feet to 180 feet. With any variance, there is 3 criteria that have to be proven or agreed to or essentially given a yes to. So the first item A, is the property owner proposes to use the lot or parcel in a reasonable manner not permitted by the zoning code. And again, this is specific to exceeding the front yard setback. B is the plight of the property owner must be due to non-economic circumstances that are unique to the lot or parcel and not created by the property owner. And then C, the variance must not alter the essential character of the locality. So again, this is specific to exceeding the building's front yard setback from 30 feet to 180 feet. And what I'll be looking for from the commissioners is this a yes or a no to A, B, and C? And the staff report includes a lot more detail on what those answers could be, or the suggested answers from staff. What's shown on here is just a summary of that. With the site plan, what a site plan review is, it's a detailed comparison of the plan set if it is in compliance with the city code. And we look at everything from exterior lighting to landscaping, architecture, parking, and all that stuff. So again, this is just a summary. With the architecture, it exceeds the minimum standards along with the parking. Setbacks, there's a small deviation, so the minimum setback on the south, for the parking lot on the south and the west is 5 feet. They're showing it 4 feet 6, so that can easily be adjusted to gain that 6 inches. Landscaping, there are 2 trees short. There is space to put 2 trees. And then staff is also recommending that there be additional landscaping. I don't have a mouse. An additional landscape hedge along the western parking edge to help screen headlights that would shine into the neighboring property. And then staff is recommending a shared access through Rain Tree Plaza. This is, the driveway easement is more of a, or would be more of a private deal between the two property owners. We can't require that, we can only recommend it. If the owner in Rain Tree Plaza are cannot come up with an agreement, then the next option is the full access on a balsam, and then staff is recommending that the applicant remove the center island. Okay, and here we have a detail of the architectural plans. And it's a little hard to see this, but this is the project property. It's fairly narrow. This is the driveway that goes into the property currently. This is the Rain Tree Plaza driveway where staff is recommending that it be a shared access. If this is not agreeable with Rain Tree, then the next option is to remove the center island to allow a full access into the driveway. And it's a little hard to see here. This is a panoramic photo of the southwest corner of the property that looks onto this home and then over to this building at the right here. So it's hard to see. There are overhead power lines that go along the west property, as well as a small berm that's here. Questions?
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. John, the first is, are we going to add a condition of approval to ensure that parking setbacks are going to meet the requirements? I know it's 6 inches, but
Yeah.
maybe I didn't read all the way through the packet to see if it was already in
We
there.
can. I'm anticipating that this will be fixed, hopefully before the council meeting. So kind of, in what I think it is. So we require a 5-foot setback to the back of the curb, and it's drawn to the front of the curb. And
It's an easy adjustment.
Yeah.
They're not going to have any issues with that. I just want to make sure that if we approve this or recommend approval, that we do so in compliance with the code, right? So, second question I have is related to the easement that this property will have with the Rain Tree Plaza for the access. I would imagine that our code requires that each property have its own access to the public right of way.
I would have to look at, I can't tell you. I'd have to look through the code. We have other properties that have shared accesses.
I mean, my only concern is that I know the actual agreement it's a private agreement between these two properties, but at some point, if that agreement ever lapses or there's concern on one side or the other as far as maintenance or whatever it might be, and that easement essentially dissipates, then we have an issue with one property accessing illegally onto another property, and we've allowed that through this process. So I'm wondering if there is a way to either require that easement get recorded with the county, so that it's recorded against the lot, so we know that it's there, but then also potentially add a condition of approval saying if at any point that this easement becomes dissolved, then this property will have to put in their own access onto the right-of-way, as we were discussing before. So you just want to make sure that, in the future, that if something happens, that we're still meeting code requirements and that we're not eliminating access to a property that we've approved.
Quick question, John. On the west property line, the city's recommendation is additional trees and hedging for the block headlights. Did you guys consider a fence as part of that recommendation, or
Yes.
is there room for a fence?
Uh,
I don't know what our fence setback is.
So there is not a setback for a fence.
Okay.
The only hesitation I would have is it's right in it's right in a overhead power line easement.
So is the landscaping though, so.
So with the landscaping. So I would say if that's a recommendation of the commission, then it should be in there.
Okay.
Peter's got his hand raised.
Oh,
Hopefully we can hear him.
well, Peter, you can talk. I don't know if we can hear you or not.
Can't tell if he's talking either yet.
Yeah.
No.
Peter, all we can see is your forehead. Okay. So I
That's
apologize
unfortunate.
for the technical problems.
What time will you start with?
Yeah, it's coming
Yes,
up.
there will be, yeah. Okay.
Peter, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. That's what we're trying to solve here.
Yeah. Okay, well,
All right. Peter, again, if you can hear us, we're going to keep trying to solve those technical difficulties. In the meantime, we're going to keep moving forward. Any other questions for staff?
I just have a comment on the driveway setback. My personal opinion is that what we're requiring in code is far too little to start with. But I guess that probably doesn't surprise you guys that I would say that. But 4'6" or 5 feet along a residential property line, I don't know how you shield that with any kind of effective shielding, whether it be noise or light or whatever, with that small of a setback. I just don't know how you do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to have like a wall they built along the freeway, and I'm certainly not recommending that we do something like that. I just think it's just too close. And the other issue I have is the setback for the building itself from residential property. I think it's too close. I mean, I understand why they're pushing it as far away from the road as they are, because the lot is just a horrible design to build anything on it. But that's just what we're dealt with from 30 years ago when they laid the property out. I certainly appreciate the fact that you moved from 3 stories to 1 story. That's definitely moving in the right direction, but I still have concerns about the adjacent property owners.
Aside from the 4'6" setback needing to be 5 feet, all the other uses of this property meet minimum code requirements, correct?
yes. So
Setbacks and height and all that stuff too, correct?
Yes. And I should mention on the plan, and this is kind of a carryover from when this was proposed to be a 3-story building. One of the requirements that the city would have had was for a fire lane behind the building. And since it's gone from a 3-story to 1-story, the fire lane is no longer needed. So that does free up space for additional landscaping.
Does the code address shielding commercial types of uses from residential uses as far as traffic and parking and headlights and things of that nature? Is there a requirement for screening of those parking areas?
Yeah, so it's 3.5 feet. So the idea is you'd have a taller shrub that's at least 3.5 feet tall.
And then is anything proposed for that west property line for that turnaround area?
No, so the proposed landscaping is just in this corner here, so this is why staff is recommending additional screening along the curve.
Every time a car goes through that roundabout, it's going to shine its headlights in somebody's backyard
You got that
and
right.
window. So,
Is staff satisfied with the screening mechanism that is being proposed for the parking area and the turnaround from residents and users of the proposed property?
I think realistically, we're not going to know until this is built. So I guess one recommendation is, once this is built, we can kind of get a better idea of how this functions. And then assuming if the developer is agreeable, then we can just make changes as needed.
I think it might be difficult to do it after the fact, especially going back to a developer who might be long gone from the project when we realize that it might be an issue. And then it's going to be a burden put on the property owner, and the property owner is going to look at it and say, where am I not in line with current city standards? And so I think if we want to address this issue, perhaps the planning commission or the council should require or recommend, actually probably just require some other kind of mechanism along that western property line to help shield that from the property owners to the west, potentially a fence of some kind.
Sure.
I think at this point in time, just so the public's aware, we're going to call the applicant up, and they're going to maybe discuss briefly what questions we have of them of the project, and then we'll have an open forum for the public to speak, and then we'll probably have the applicant come up one more time after that.
And while we've got Peter, can you hear or can you speak?
That was a good movement, like he was doing something.
Peter, can you hear us at all? Okay, so
No. Let's move on.
All right. Would the applicant like to come forward to speak about the project at all? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Chad Castle with BJ Bosky Builders, general contractor for the project.
And I'm Frank. I'm the
Frank's with Triad Holdings, the company for the project.
Do you guys have anything you want to share with us first, or do you just want to entertain questions?
I will say on the first round, we walked out of here, and I did contact Rain Tree Plaza for a cross-access agreement. At the time when I talked to him a few different times, and then he just wasn't interested. Just had some concerns about the maintenance, kind of the same things you guys talked about here. John did tell me that he had a conversation with him, and he may be open to another discussion. I haven't connected with him yet, so I intend to. And then the comments on the setback and anything like that can be handled, relatively quickly, and I can try and have that even done before city council. So,
Would you guys be amenable to putting up a fence along that west property line to shield that traffic coming into the property from the property owners to the west there?
I guess it would depend on what the fence material has to be and the cost and the height and all that. We don't want to, just put a big burden on the project and the cost for that. Not that we're opposed to it. We can talk with Triad and the ownership group through that. On other projects, we have done that shrubs, say on like apartment projects and stuff like that. And that's one other thing I'd like to note on this is initially when I first contacted John, we started as an apartment building, right? Mm-hmm. So that would have been like a totally different thing and a lot more traffic. We came through the concept plan. We heard the comments on, the multi-story building, and Triad took that into consideration, and it was at their direction that we changed directions and went to a one-level building that kind of met all the needs there. So. I got one question, maybe just related to that fire road. Because right now we do have it putting down a section of class 5 back there, and then we're going over it with topsoil and sod. And maybe you just meant, when you said it wasn't required, maybe you just meant like a blacktop road. I guess that would be my,
Sure.
if it's not required, right, we can take that
Yeah.
out of the project and pay for some fence, maybe, you know?
Yes, it's not required. So because it's a single-story building, like there's not, ladders that are going up to the second story.
Yeah.
It's taking people out of the
Right,
window.
so we can remove that class
Yes.
5, and then we could just do regular backyard topsoil and sod and, okay.
Yes, the code does require a shrub, well, I'm going to say landscaping around the perimeter of the building, but.
Yes, correct, yep, yeah, but, I mean, the section and the material that we're using to create this
Yep, not.
20-foot wide road back there to support a fire truck like that, there's a large cost to that, so if we can take that out, then we got some more money within the budget to, could potentially add a fence there, so.
Was the building shifted to get the fire lane in there? So if that goes away, can the building snug up against that north property line at all? Or is that already at the setback? Just thinking like a little bit more room on the south, a little bit more room on the west, right? The whole thing can shift.
From the concept plan, I don't think it was shifted more than a foot or two.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's more room for a fence or another row of shrubs or something,
What is the setback from the north property line as it's currently proposed?
Well, 20 feet for residential uses, so it's about at that. So the minimum required is 20, what's proposed is 21 feet, 4 inches.
So if we remove that road, we could potentially scoot it back that 1 foot forward. Yeah,
Well, you scoot it directly east and you actually gain a little bit more. You'll gain 1.5 feet. And you'll gain extra distance, right? Because you're going at an angle.
right. That'll help with the other setbacks with the curb and whatnot too, the 6 inches. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a tight site.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No, I just encourage you to keep talking to Raintree. I mean, I think it'd be a little disappointing if you guys have to do your own driveway and we have multiple entrance exits off of Balsam stacked up against each other there. It's
One big cutout.
Yeah, cars can come and go wherever they want. It's just not safe, so I know it's not a high-traffic use, and we appreciate that it's a single-story assisted living compared to a 3-story apartment building. It's drastically different. But yeah, whatever we can do to get those lots to connect there would be appreciated.
Yeah, and we're open to that as long as something can be made agreeable between the two property owners.
I see Peter talking. Is he talking to himself or?
Yeah, usually does. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize, Peter.
Got it. Very good chance we'll probably call you back up here, but I think it'll be good to hear the public comments first.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there.
All right.
It is 7:03, and I am going to open the public hearing. If anyone is here from the public to speak on this matter, please come forward, state your name and address.
All right, Craig Lindgren, I'm at 13620 Evergreen Lane. My house is the property that's right by the turnaround. I was 100% against it when it was 3 stories. I'm still 100% against it. I don't want to be hearing emergency vehicle sirens all the time. I don't want to be having headlights shining in my backyard and my windows.
Mike is what you're saying?
Yeah, if you can put the mic.
Put the mic up so they can, here, thank you.
I don't want to be hearing emergency vehicle sirens all the time. I don't want to be sitting in my backyard or in my bedroom and have headlights shining at me all the time. The way I see it, that building is way too close to the property line, and this is a business where it is going to be high traffic for vehicles. It's not like an insurance office where nobody really has to go to the insurance office to do their business. It is going to be high traffic. And, you know, I mean, to be hypothetical or however you want to call it, if that house was any of your guys's, would you want this coming in? I don't think so. I just think it's wrong kind of business or too big of a building to be going in that property.
Is your issue the setback or the building itself going in there?
Hmm?
Is your issue the setback away from your property for both the building and the parking lot, or just the fact that this type of business is going in there?
It's both. I mean, you look at that, there's not much room between that property line and the building and the parking lot. I mean, if that was laid out where the building was this way and the parking lot on that side, I wouldn't have near as much issue with it. But when the parking lot is right up against my backyard, I'm gonna be dealing with headlights in my backyard, in my bedroom window, nonstop. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ready. Hello, I'm Jennifer Trozen. I live at on Hemlock Lane, which is about 2 blocks as the bird flies from there. Yeah, as far as what you just discussed, I wanted to point out a couple things. You recommend that they're sharing a driveway with Raintree, but I will point out that Raintree doesn't take that great of care of their property, particularly the concrete or the blacktopping, so I don't know if the new property owner will be happy with their level of maintenance if they're saddled with somebody who has a terrible driveway, but I will point that out. Secondly, as far as the fencing goes that you were just discussing, I would say, to be fair to the property owner, that you should put up a completely blocking, like vinyl fence, because shrubs are unreliable whether they die or actually grow together in a tight hedge, so that. And then secondly, and I'd also like to reiterate what he said about the ambulance noise. My previous house was next to a nursing home, and it was daily. We were getting ambulance and fire truck responses. So it was like a daily thing of noise coming. And I talked to the firefighter who came, and he said it was usually non-emergency reasons too. So I don't know if we have any control of whether we can request that they come without their sirens on, particularly if it's non-emergency reasons. He told me that it was mostly people needed a ride to the hospital. So I don't know if the planning commission has any role or to play in that, or the city, if we could request that, or have any, or if the project hinges on any such concerns to the neighborhood of noise and, like he said, just extra traffic and lights in residences.
Yeah, so just so everyone understands the process, usually when people come forward, we don't necessarily give a lot of feedback. We're more just absorbing what you guys have to say. So thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Kane Seep. I live on Evergreen Lane, which is right that same street. Oh, that affects those residents. Okay. And when you're talking about putting that close of a building and having that type of a capacity, being a realtor, I know firsthand what happens to property values? Okay, and when I'm showing houses and I'm showing some place that's by one of these facilities, nobody wants to buy them. They don't want to be that close to a facility where they know that there's going to be traffic of sirens constantly. And not only that, but the congestion that was brought up on Balsam. And also, because that is, you're looking at that parking lot, okay, which I'm assuming you're going to have to put up bright lights way above where you would probably see a fence to block off, if you plan on putting a fence there, to block off the drive-by from cars. Now those properties are not only dealing with headlights, but they're also looking at property, what do you call them, streetlights and stuff, and they'll be blaring in there. So the residents that have all been in that area, we moved out here to be in a quiet place and not be right next to anything that's going to destroy our property's values.
Kimberly, I'm sorry, what was your last name again?
Kane-Seep,
Can you spell that for me?
Kane-E-SEEP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one person online. I'm going to see if I can unmute this. And then Peter, I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, but we can't hear you still. Peter, can you try that again?
I can hear you, John.
Okay. That's from my computer. Okay. And then other than Peter, we also, and this is where you're gonna have an echo. We also have one person attending online. If you have anything you'd like to speak for the public hearing.
John, just mute your computer when you talk and then unmute it when they listen to it.
Got it. Are there any comments online from Zoom? We have no more comments. No more public comments.
All right. It is 7:12, and I am going to close the public hearing. Discussion from fellow commissioner members. Mr. DeMuth, do you want to chime in? And I think we have our volume now. John unmutes you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Can you put your mic a little closer to your computer?
Just put your mic down, John.
Maybe. All right, Peter, let's give it a try.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I guess a couple things that I have on this property that's unique. It's similar to the stuff we've talked about down at the industrial park off of French Lake or 117th. And it's just how do we abut residents here? It's residents to the west, and business or commercial to the east, and what's that setback want to be? I'm okay with shortening the setback shortening the setback to what the east, if I understand the setback correctly, right, we're 6 inches too close, but I'm okay with that. As long as we're pushing it, further to the east away from the residences on the west side, and that's kind of my big issue with this one. As far as how the property's laid out, the use, I mean, the only thing I would look at is trying to figure out, can we fit any more landscaping on that west side? But those are the only comments I have on it.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, thoughts on some of the things we've heard, the project?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I think the two items in front of us tonight, number one is being the variance, and that's again to increase the distance from 30 feet to the front property line to 180 feet. So this district does want these buildings to be as close to the street as possible with a maximum setback of 30 feet, which is kind of odd because usually we talk about minimum setbacks. That they can't be any closer, but the maximum of 30 feet. And so the variance to allow 180 feet, I think, is justified. This property is configured in a way that no use, in my opinion, would be able to go in here without the need of some kind of setback variance that's being asked for tonight. I think it meets all the criteria. This is one of the, this is a standard case for why variances are even allowed in the first place. And this is a prime example of a great use of variances to allow a development to happen. Again, I don't think any development would be able to occur without the variance that's being requested, some kind of variance that's being requested tonight, regardless of the setback. The second thing is for the site plan. And the site plan, again, takes into consideration all of the minimum code requirements that the code establishes, not only for the use of the property, but also the physical dimensions, how tall, how far away, number of parking, amount of landscaping, amount of screening. As it sits right now, it's my understanding that this property, the proposal in front of us meets the minimum code requirements per the direction of city staff. It's not, as Chair DeMuth was saying before, these are the most difficult situations any city faces, not just Dayton, is the transition between residential and non-residential properties. So if it wasn't this property, it's going to be a different type of use that would be going in here. And we'd have the same concerns and considerations from neighboring property owners as far as noise, light, traffic. I get it. It's not an ideal situation, but this property can't just be left undeveloped either when we have an owner willing to develop it that's meeting all code requirements. So the question isn't whether or not this proposal is sufficient. The question, if we have any questions regarding that, is the current code sufficient to establish what we want to establish as a city? And so I think we have to get away from whether or not this proposal meets or doesn't meet code requirement, because staff has indicated that it does. And if a future consideration needs to be met as far as if the code is sufficient enough, that's a discussion we're going to have in a future setting. With that said, I do think that there is some room for improvement on this property, in as much as we can require not shrubs, but a fence that is an opaque or near opaque or whatever the code allows for wind loads and so on and so forth. I do think a fence needs to be put up along that west property line to protect those properties from headlight shining into those lots. Not much is going to be able to be done with the parking lot lighting that's going to be required, but the code has been altered to have minimum standards for lighting to make sure that that spillage isn't intrusive onto neighboring properties. We have requirements for photometric readings, so on and so forth, that hopefully handles that situation. But that's my take on this. I understand the concerns of the neighbors, I really do. But but right now, this is a proposal that's meeting code requirements. It's a lot less intrusive than it was previously when we first saw this, from 3 stories to 1 story. The use is a lot less intrusive as far as an apartment to an assisted living facility. I think traffic is not going to be nearly as much as an apartment building would have been. As far as emergency services, you're going to find emergency services in any kind of use, and this type of use, yes, it'll probably be more than other uses that might occupy the space, and that's a function of the use of the property, not the setback requirements and everything else to consider that. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Jeff, with regards to the proposal at hand and how we need to look at it. I would 100% concur that the fencing has to be solid and at the max height that code allows, probably 6 feet. There is some design that can be done with the parking lot lighting, the direction of the lamp, so that the source is invisible, the photometrics to make sure that it's like the bare minimum lighting on the far west edge of it for that turnaround. There's no parking there, so we don't need to shine additional lighting in the corner. So we just got to make sure there's absolutely no spillage of direct light into the neighboring properties. I think we want to make sure that fencing covers as much of that property line up to the building as we can. I don't know if it's needed at the far end of it past the parking lot, but it's also a security thing for the neighbors too, to get that fencing there. Privacy, security, and light control. Yeah. And again, like I said, encourage that connection to Raintree, and I think maybe when you talk to them, you should address the quality of their drive too. I think that's a fair thing too. So.
I'm not uncomfortable, well, I'm uncomfortable with the whole project, just to start with, but I'm not really hung up on the distance away from the road, changing it to the, just because of the nature of the lot. You're right, whatever gets put in there is probably going to have to be pushed away from the road farther than any of the other properties along there. I don't know that you could put anything in there that would actually fit within the regulations that we currently have.
You'd have to get combined with Raintree's property, right?
You would have to. I mean, whoever subdivided this property in the first place,
None of the properties meet that setback, so that must have been added.
The GMU4 was after the fact.
After all this was developed.
And this is just me, I wasn't involved, but I can tell that it was probably with the intention that all this stuff was going to be redeveloped at some point in time, and it's just my opinion that that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right, so the issue for me is not that setback variance at all. The issue for me is the distance from the adjacent property that technically might fall within the rules and regulations that we've set up for this area, but I think are wholly inadequate, not only for here, but for any other place that we're doing this. And I think that, we keep talking about this and the applicant keeps coming back, but we don't change any of the requirements from our end. I mean, that's something the city council, I would hope, would look at. I've heard some, promising conversation along that line. But to stick these commercial properties in the backyard of some residential properties is just wrong. And if our code allows that to happen, then there's something really, really wrong with our code. And it's like Jeff says, that's what we're looking at here. I'm not saying it quite as eloquently as Jeff is, because I don't have the experience in this area that Jeff does, but I understand when you're intruding on somebody else's way of life. And that certainly is this. If there was ever a description of doing that, it's putting commercial next to residential. We've got to figure out some kind of a buffer between the two. And it can't be just 8 feet or 10 feet, or certainly like the parking lot here, 5 feet. I mean, to me, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm more than 5 feet from Jeff, for crying out loud. And that you can't get the results that we want with that kind of a setback. So I think we really need to look at how we address that quickly. I mean, it's not fair to the applicant, to keep trying to follow the bouncing ball if we keep moving the ball, but we need to fix that problem, and it's definitely a problem. I don't know, there's no one I've talked to that says it's not a problem. It needs to go to the top of the agenda, it needs to get fixed. In this situation here, the only way, I guess, if they want a building that's somewhere near that size anyway, is to make the building smaller, to give greater distance from the residential property. And you'd have to creep towards the eastern property line farther than what our code currently allows in order to give yourself some kind of decent cushion or border between the parking lot and the adjacent residential. It's too big of a stamp and too small of an envelope, is what it looks like to me.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I could just add, the challenge with that is, whatever the use is, moving the building forward to the east still has to accommodate the width of the drive lane.
Yeah.
So there's only so far it can move forward.
Yeah, no matter what you do on this side, if you want a bigger buffer to the west, the building's just got to be smaller.
Yeah.
I guess that was my whole point.
Yep.
Well said.
Yep. First of all, thank you guys for coming here and speaking out. Sometimes you don't always like what gets decided up here, but thank you for coming and speaking out because it's important that we hear your opinions. It's tough because I agree with Commissioner Sargent a lot because our code allows it. And I also agree with Mr. Grover that, maybe our code shouldn't allow it. But this code has also been in place for over a decade. It was part of the 2040 plan.
Yeah.
Or before. And this is the first time we actually had an applicant come forward because all the other lots were developed quite a while ago. And so, that's why we're dealing with it today. There are a few other sites in the city like this, but there's not many anymore. It's going to become a future problem. And really, these problems that we have are kind of more abutting some of the homes that were built 20 or more years ago, or developments that were built. And, so I have a hard time saying no because it's allowed by code. And I'm putting a little bit of burden on council that, if this is really a big deal, the direction needs to come from council that we need to change the code. Now, on the positive side, this is such a less intensive use than what we saw the first time around, so I think that's really good. I do think that my background is a commercial real estate appraiser, and I'm pretty familiar with memory care and assisted living facilities. These are low-traffic uses. It's shift changes and visitors. And it's also only 22 beds, so it's not as dense as it could be. Or I shouldn't say could be. It could be way more intrusive if it was more dense, is what I'm trying to say. I agree with everyone that we need a solid fence on the west border. I think that if we're going to grant this variance, it's one of the requirements I think we need to ask for. And I have no problem with the front yard variance. As the other commissioner said, it's going to be granted regardless because of the shape of the lot on that side of it. And I think that is the majority of my comments. Not only a fence on the west side, but the landscaping focus, when you think of the landscaping requirement, I think that, as much as you can even put there with evergreens on the fence too, that, if you start them out at 6 feet tall, I think hopefully you can work with staff that, sometimes our landscaping requirement requires a lot, but in this case, especially because it's such a tight, maybe the quality, meaning starting with 6 foot or 8 foot trees is going to help too, because that's going to help buffer. It's not going to solve noise, and that's the issue, is that we really can't, if we can move the building 5 feet or 10 feet, it's probably not going to matter, because John and I are 10 feet away. It's not going to change anything if we move it 10 feet. So I kind of think that, the more landscaping you can get there, the better to help with buffering it and, mitigating even the parking lot lights as those trees get bigger and bigger. Commissioner DeMuth, now that you've heard this, do you have anything else you want to add?
Give me 1 second here. There. Go ahead, Peter.
I was gonna say, I don't really think so. I mean, I think paying attention to the landscaping buffer on the west end is crucial. The only thing I disagree with is, if they can move 5 to 10 feet more, it doesn't seem like it will impact anything, but it in reality, it gives room for the buffers. It gives room for more plantings. It gives room for more space. So I'm in disagreement on that statement, but that's the only comment that I have.
I have one question for the applicant, if they could come back forward, just because we had a letter up here and it might go to the council, and I just want to put some information I have with my background on record, and it'd help how you guys answer some questions. So I understand this is the first assisted living memory care project for Triad. No. Have you built assisted living memory care facilities before, or been involved in designing them?
Our architect's been involved in designing them, and we have extensive experience in multifamily projects, and some of them like a 55-plus setting, but like a true assisted living, this is our first one.
Okay. And the only reason I'm saying that is I think that this project needs to be approved or denied on the project basis, not on anything else. And, from my background, it does look like a typical memory care assisted living facility. The only concern I would know that the market might have, and residents might not like to hear this, but it's too small for economies of scale from an operating standpoint. And it's just something to keep in mind as you move forward. And, that could impact the long-term viability and use of the property, I guess.
I guess a question I have too, and for the record too, so with this type of use, are there any other licenses that you would need from the state in order to operate?
Yeah, the Triad will be getting a state from the Minnesota Department of Health. Yep.
Okay.
We're working through that process. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions since they're up here?
Do you have an estimate of what your staffing plan would look like, total number of people that are working per shift, day shift, evening shifts, or anything, or just to help kind of understand the traffic volume? People.
It keeps changing depending on the number of patients that you have.
Yeah, assuming it's full.
2 a night.
Okay.
2 to 4 a night. Depends on the acuity, but 2 to 4 a night.
Okay.
During the day, plus the day staff, close to 7, 8.
Okay. All right.
I know there was just a comment on the sirens or concerns of sirens, and I don't remember if it was at City Council or planning with our concept plan. The question was asked of Frank how Triad would handle if a patient were to fall. Can they handle it, or do they have to call emergency services? And Frank can correct me if I'm wrong, but their staff will be trained to handle that, so they won't have to have these unnecessary calls to the emergency services for that.
Correct. And also, I have been involved in calling at night with the hospice. You can give directive that don't come with sirens. Come silent. It's just a lift assist from the, so they are really good with taking instructions how you want them to come in. Should they put in the sirens or not? But our building will be not, our staff should be able to lift patients from the floor.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Yep.
I'm open to more discussion, or I am also open to entertaining a motion.
Do you want the motion separate, the variance and the site plan?
I think they can be together. I mean, without the variance, there is no site plan.
It's true. Do we need to go over the grounds of the variance? Prior to
Yes,
making your motion?
your points, yep.
So again, with the variance, there's a set criteria that the council has to say yes to, so it's 3 different items. First, and I'm just going to read this and then summarize what the answer is. A variance shall only be permitted when it's in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the city code and consistent with the comprehensive plan. So in this case, the intent of the city code is for a general mixed-use district. We were looking at assisted living as similar to a multifamily use, and that is consistent with the GMU 4 district. And then also, it is also consistent with the comprehensive plan in that it is considered to be a mixed-use project. The second item is the variance may only be permitted when the applicant establishes that are practical difficulties in complying with the zoning ordinance, meaning, and this is ABC, the property owner proposes to use the lot or parcel in a reasonable manner not permitted by the zoning code. So in summary, the zoning code requires a maximum 30-foot building setback. Due to the shape of the property, that is not a reasonable amount of land to build on. And so the applicant's request for 180 feet is a reasonable use. B, the plight of the property owner must be due to non-economic circumstances that are unique to the lot or parcel and not created by the property owner. The uniqueness is the shape of the property, and that was created by the subdivider, not the current property owner. And then C, the variance must not alter the essential character of the locality. So again, the proposed setback is 180 feet. The Rain Tree to the north has currently a 90-foot setback, and then the building to the south has an 88-foot setback. So the greater 180 feet is a little out of character compared to the north and south property. But again, the practical difficulty in this case is the shape of the property. So those are the suggested findings to support the variance.
Do you need anything from us?
If you'd like to treat this one at a time, I guess my question, do you have any questions or opposition to the findings, or the recommended findings?
No,
Okay.
from me.
No.
Okay, so then next would be the site plan. So with the site plan, there are also a number of findings to support approval or denial of the site plan. More so are the conditions of approval. So this is where, if the commission would like to recommend a fence along the western property line, this is the time to make that.
I believe the commission would like to recommend a fence.
I also think that you could probably tie the condition of the requirement of the fence into the variance also. So if it was not for the variance, then perhaps this fence wouldn't be needed because setbacks would have been able to be made and into the front property line, which could have shifted all these elements to not be much of a burden on the property owners to the west. So I think as a condition of approval of the variance, we should require that fence. Now, what it looks like, how tall, I think we could maybe have some discussion on that, if it's 6 or 8 feet, or if it's 80% opaque, or it's 100% opaque, what it's made out of, those type of conditions for that fence.
I think it should be 100% opaque.
I'd agree.
Whether the materials, I'm not the fence expert, but what are the materials, vinyl, metal, or wood? I'm impartial, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that any external lighting in that parking lot needs to shine away from the residences and towards the facility also. Not just like you normally see illuminated 360 around
Yeah,
a street light. I think it all needs to go away from.
The light source needs to be concealed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the code does require that. Now,
Yeah.
the one caveat to it is if you're standing on the ground and you're looking up at a 20-foot tall light, you're still going to see the light source.
And, you know, I'm looking at the site plan too, and it's a little bit with lighting, a little bit with setbacks, and this is directed towards the applicant, but I feel like it can be one-way traffic around the turnaround, and that could maybe narrow up that road to create some more area for stuff. I don't think that turnaround needs to be two-way traffic. Could be wrong.
Still need radius for
Yeah,
emergency vehicles.
That's going to dictate
It's-
it.
The radius for fire trucks as well as the backing of perpendicular parking.
But there's no perpendicular parking
In the
around the
turnaround.
turnaround.
I mean, you could make, I mean, I hate to say it, you could make that whole thing an asphalt area, but I get why they have a turnaround for traffic flow, like they have it. But
Right,
if there's a way to create more space to buffer it, and maybe the fence will cover that, but
If the center island is not there, then that roadway that runs along the property line could be moved way farther away. We wouldn't even be looking at 5 feet or 4 feet or whatever the heck.
right.
Yeah, it's still the turning radius of a fire truck that has to be maintained, and so that radius might be what.
You know,
it
when you
needs to
say
be.
that, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Paul, but when you say that and you look at other properties, it's like,
There's no,
I don't know.
they have to back up out of there.
Yeah, and so part of me, what I'm saying is that, and it's more of a site plan issue that I wish, I guess, and maybe the applicant, if you want to come forward, you can, if you've got some ideas. But we can probably create some more room there if there wasn't a turnaround, but that would obviously require, you know, pulling in and backing out and turning around differently, if there wasn't the actual flow of the circular turnaround.
Yeah, I can say that the fire chief is not going to agree to that. So there does need to be a turnaround.
But there are no properties on that whole street that
Yeah.
you could pull a
It
fire
does-
truck
it
in and
doesn't
turn
matter,
around.
though. This is a
This
brand
would
new
be the only one.
This is a brand new construction, though. They
Yeah,
want
it's a
to
resident.
keep up to date with how they could best protect any new development. And so I get the argument that no other property has it, but it doesn't mean that this property should be less protected for fire suppression because of it.
And you have residents that don't have as good mobility potentially.
Thank you. Yeah, you might be able to shed a lot of light to put this to bed.
No pun intended.
Yes.
I think, and I'll have to go back and check my records, but I think that is for the fire, the radius for the turnaround. And I'm not sure on the code for that island, if that's a requirement. You know, so many feet in there, I'd have to check with the civil designer on that, but that's, you know, not saying that that's why it's there, but if, that could be a factor for it, having that island there in the middle, like every so many feet, there has to be a island. I know we run into that sometimes.
We require that for larger parking lots, and you've got a
Yep.
small parking lot, it's not going to meet that. I don't know, this is something where, in staff-wise, we internally, we have disagreements over, you know, I'm going to say, from the planning side, we'd like narrower streets and more landscaping. From the public safety side, wider streets, you know, and less landscaping. So, you know, there's no right answer for, no general right answer. It's always going to be project specific.
I do know down kind of in that, we're kind of maxed out at our minimum, kind of where the building corner, you know, tightens down, squeezes us down in that lot, getting in and out of there.
Yeah.
We're like, that's almost as tight as it can go.
Yeah, and I get that side of it.
Yeah.
My thought is that you could maybe create some more space on the western property boundary, but if you didn't have a turnaround like that.
Right.
But I'm hearing a lot of feedback that
Yeah.
that's not a possibility.
I mean, I guess, tonight's meeting is not a concept review meeting. This is a proposal that the developer
That's part of the
wants.
site plan, though.
It is, but in my opinion, the site plan is still meeting all the minimum code requirements, even if the fence was not there, right? And I think that we are requesting the fence because of the fact that the variance is there and we have that vehicle to be able to request that fence for. So I think we have to take that in consideration also, is that the developer has put some time and money into creating the plan in front of us and is asking for approval of this plan.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Any other questions or? Thanks.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance to increase the maximum front yard building setback on the site plan review for the Dayton Assisted Living project here on 136, whatever the address is going to be on Balsam Lane North, with a couple items that I want to make sure are included with that so that we make sure that they are recorded against the property. Number one, that the we'll call it, what, a 6-foot fence, 8-foot fence, I don't know, a screening fence is placed on the west property line. Perhaps it's something that that staff and the developer could work out as far as those details. And a second item of consideration would be, obviously, I think it will be met at the time of the city council meeting, but to make sure that those setbacks are increased from the 4.5 feet to 5 feet, which was stated in the staff's address to the planning commission. And then a third condition involving the easement or the potential easement agreement that this property will have with the property, the Rain Tree property to the north or northeast or whatever you want to call it there, to ensure that that gets recorded against the property, and that at any time that it is dissolved, that this property will be required to have direct access onto Balsam Lane.
So we got a motion for the variance as well as site plan approval with the conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Mr. DeMuth, do you have any discussion you want to add before we vote?
Give me a second here.
Any discussion from any other members before we vote?
No.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Peter.
I don't have anything additional.
All right, we are going to do a roll call vote, and we are going to start with Mr. Sargent.
Yes.
Mr. DeMuth,
Yes.
Mr. Crossland,
Aye.
Mr. Grover,
No.
and Commissioner Brown votes yes.
So recommendation for approval passes 4-1. So this will go to the city council on Tuesday, May 28th. And then the council will make a decision whether to approve the project or not.
Moving
May,
on.
I'm sorry, Tuesday, May 26th.
Moving on to item 8B, public hearing for a zoning ordinance amendment on accessory building and structures.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So this item has been discussed by the Planning Commission. Can't remember when we started, but it's been for numerous times. So the origin of this project, in City Code, we do not allow shipping containers in Dayton other than as temporary storage. So if you think of whether that be like a construction trailer or a moving pod, that would be an example of what's allowed in Dayton. There are numerous properties where happen to be shipping containers and have been for many, many years. In 2024 and 2025, the city had approved a number of event centers that have a use for shipping containers. One of them used them as a kind of props for a Halloween haunted hayride. And the second event center used a shipping container as a kind of a small bar or concession stand. So when those two projects were approved by the council, the question was was the council supportive of the use for shipping containers? The answer was yes, and then the direction was fix the code to allow these. In the Planning Commission's discussion, the question then becomes on what properties should these be permitted and how. The last discussion that the commission had in April was that the shipping containers should be treated as any other accessory building and allowed on parcels that are 2 acres or more in size. So I'm anticipating a question of how many properties are there in Dayton that are 2 or more acres in size, and that's where we get into the maps.
One point of clarity, John.
Yep.
Just before we dwell on the 2 acres, but I watched a meeting back, and I believe there was consensus of 1 acre to match the current accessory code structure that I'm looking at.
Okay.
And I don't know if that changes anything, what you're about to say, but I would watch back at the meeting, and the consensus was to match how we treat residential districts below 1 acre and above 1 acre, just so it matched up and aligned.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know if that, maybe I watched it back and there was all the nods at the end of it. It was 1 acre. I don't know if you guys.
that you watched it back.
Well, I was like, I want
Just
to be
having so
done
much
with
fun.
accessory buildings. I'm like, I better get my brain around this.
It's impressive.
So anyway,
Okay. A little bit. So I do not have, on the screen, I've got 2 maps of parcels that are 2 or more acres and 5 or more acres. I do not have a map that's 1 or more. Every parcel that is colored is, on the left is 2 or more acres, and then on the right is 5 or more acres. So in either case, a lot of properties in Dayton would qualify for a shipping container.
And then that many more if it's 1 acre, right? So that's a lot for 2 acres, and it's going to be that much more if it's 1 acre in size or more.
Mr. DeBooth has his hand up.
Go ahead,
Can you hear
Peter.
me? All right, the 1 acre, so what I recall about the 1 acre discussion was a lot of new developments allow a 1 acre parcel, but, half of that is, or more, is wetland. And so if it's 1 usable acre, it's a little different. So I think going to the 2 acre portion is, in my mind, is okay. But the 1 acre, because there's quite a few properties down by my house in South Dayton that are like 1.5 acres that are, 75% of that 1.5 are wetlands, and you can't even put something out there. So, just some food for thought on that.
How does the current code respond to that? The way it's laid out today, dealing with non-buildable acreage on
Doesn't.
property?
Doesn't.
It just ignores it?
Yeah.
I think the most important thing about the current code where it says residential districts above 1 acre in size, so until you get to 2 acres, you're only allowed 2 accessory structures on your property with a maximum square footage of 1,200 square feet. And so, I guess my question I get, if you put a 8 by 40 storage container, it's going to be a lot different than an 8 by 10 storage container on your property. But if that's what we're trying to address, it's almost like we need to address the size of the storage unit, not because I feel like we keep going in circles. And because the issue is like, well, an 8x12 storage unit and a 1 acre lot's a lot different than an 8x40, because they're both allowed. If we, adopted the 1 acre size. But again, to mirror the code is distinguishing residential districts below and above 1 acre in size for a lot of things when it comes to accessory buildings.
Well, how big of an accessory building can you have on a 1 acre lot currently?
1,200, up to 1,200 square feet.
Square feet, all right.
Up
That's what I
to.
thought it was. So why would you allow them to have anything more than that
You want.
with a different type of structure?
Right. I guess my question is if you're concerned about 1.1 acre lot having a 8x48 storage container, to me, that's a different concern than an 8x10 storage container. And that's, it's two different scenarios.
It also depends what that storage container looks like. Right, so
Right.
that's my concern, is that the more I think of this, I don't think that these shipping containers are appropriate in any residentially zoned district.
That 8x4, in particular, an 8x48, that's tough to swallow.
I think any residential, regardless of the size, I think these types of uses are more indicative to industrial and agricultural uses. We did get an email, and it was almost word for what I was going to say tonight as far as, if you do a word association with shipping container, I think of shipyards, I think of train yards, and I think of semi-trucks, because that's where you see these things, that's what they're used for. Most of our 1 and 2 acre properties, I think some of these nicer developments, I don't ever in my mind's eye see one of these shipping containers in the backyard of one of these 1 acre or 2 acre parcels. I just don't. Even driving in today, I made note of the shipping containers I saw, and they're rusty, they're old, they don't look great. And I think we should steer away from that type of situation in residentially zoned districts. That's my opinion on it. I think a lot of what we're talking about with size and everything is really boiled down to what these things look like. They're not great looking structures, right? They're durable, they're heavy, they're thick, they do their job, but it's because they're an industrial type of use, in my opinion, and not a residential use. So I just don't think we should allow them in any residential district. I'm fine with agricultural. I think that it makes sense in that because of the use of an agricultural property being more commercial anyway. I don't think that they should be allowed in residential districts.
Yeah, and not to pick on storage container or metal storage containers, but if you put up an 8x48 stick frame building, it's not going to look as attractive either. If you made a different shape building, it amplifies it when it's an 8x48 storage container.
Right. Attraction is in the eye of the beholder, right? Everybody it's very subjective of what people think look good, and in my opinion is that storage containers just the whole purpose of them, in my opinion, is just not a residential use. It's more of the industrial use. It's more of an agricultural use. It's my feeling when I think of a shipping container. I don't think many other cities in the metro area would even allow these as permanent, and then only probably allow them as temporary, like Dayton does currently, through things such as a temporary need of storage for moving, like a POTS container or whatever it might be. So I think that's there for a reason. The other metro cities understand that these things are more temporary types of uses. They're not meant to be permanent because of potentially what they look like, and maybe turn down the aesthetic value of residential neighborhoods.
And based on the staff report, our neighbors look like they're only allowing them in temporary use up to 30 days for the most part. Yeah, so I think I would.
Commissioner?
It's like we're rewinding.
We are. We do. We talk in circles.
Let's hear the other side of it.
Yeah.
And having this same conversation
Yeah,
all over again.
Yeah, we talk in circles.
Yeah.
It's a tough one
I don't know
because
if we do, but a lot gets talked in circles. Yeah. We had this discussion multiple times, and we gave direction to staff, on the direction they wanted them to go. You know, whether the 1 acre was the right number, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look like you did.
I only went back to look because I wanted to hopefully put a resolution to this.
Yeah, but the discussion and it wasn't unanimous, but the result we came up with was that they would be treated like any other shed, as long as they looked painted like, you don't want an orange one in the backyard of a cream-colored house, right? They have to look like they belong, and if you build a stick building from Menards, that has to follow that same code. It has to look like it belongs. It has to be the same color or similar look of the current structures there, whether it's your house or your garage or whatever. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, this is Dayton. This isn't Brooklyn Park. This isn't Champlin. This isn't Bloomington. This is Dayton. We are a rural community, always have been a rural community. And I think most of the people moved out to Dayton because they wanted to be in an open spaces. They wanted to be places where they could have bigger yards. They wanted to have a place where they had 4 or 5, 10 acres and could be able to do some of these things without their neighbor yelling at them because they had their trash can out there for 2 hours too long on a Thursday when the truck doesn't come till Friday. I mean, that's, to me, what sets us apart. And we've already gone down this road. I don't understand why we have to keep coming back and redoing the same thing over again. It's not, we're never all going to agree that it all is exactly the same thing. But we've already come to that conclusion that we would allow them to do that. We directed staff to do that. They spent all this time putting this all together. And now I'm hearing that maybe we shouldn't have told them to do that. Well, but we did tell them to do that. They did what we asked them to do. And they brought
There
it
still
back
might
to
be a
us.
majority that want it, Keith, so.
Yeah, the reason for me saying what I said is that I'm probably not going to be supportive of a proposal that's going in front of the council, right? So I think staff did do their job. They did understand, they listened to the planning commission. It wasn't unanimous, but they put together a proposal that the planning commission, I think in the majority sense, wants the council to consider. And I'm just going to be a dissenting vote on that, and I give my reasons for that for the record, right? So that's why I said what I said. The other comment about Dayton being rural and that's kind of who we are and that's why people are moving here, I disagree with that. I think that it has been, historically very rural, yes. I think that Dayton has made a very decided decision to redevelop itself to being more of a non-rural type of city. That's my opinion. I did not move here because of I've been in my house for 8 years now, 7 years. I did not move here so I could be away from people and want to be out in a sprawling area. I live on a 0.3 acre piece of property in one of the new developments of how many hundreds of housing housing units have we been approving here in the last 3, 5, 7, 8, 10 years, right? A lot. And we're going to have a lot more, and I think that's going to attract people who do expect things like what they do in Maple Grove or Brooklyn Park or wherever it might be. I think you're going to get those residents coming here with that expectation that I don't want to see the trash can at the end of the driveway for an extended period of time. I do want to see my neighbors keeping up their property in a manner that I think is consistent with a good living situation. I enjoy Dayton, I really do. I enjoy the mix of the types of uses, the mix of residential uses, the fact that I could drive by farm fields to get to my house. Those farm fields are going away. They are, right? And that's just the bottom line of redevelopment and what I think the identity or the new identity of Dayton is trying to become. I could be wrong on that. That's my impression as a resident, right? So I think there is a responsibility for the planning commission and the council to understand that Dayton is changing. It is. It's a community that people are drawn to, I think, because of that change. That's why we moved here. We enjoy the change, and it's met our needs. And obviously, I'm a happy resident, but I think that we have to understand that not everybody thinks that this is that rural place that we want to go to because we have chickens in our backyard. That's just not how it is.
To keep this on point too, I think that Obviously, we talked about the 1 acre at the end. I'm not against 2 acres. I just know that that's kind of what we talked about at the end. But to Keith's point, is people that are on 2 acres, it is a different way of living than if you're on 0.3 acres. And so everyone has different ways of living. And to keep this moving forward, I think it's maybe a good idea just to see how many people on the commission are in favor of storage containers before we move any further at this point in time. I don't know if you guys agree, but it seems like that's step one, because if there's the majority's in favor, we need to get the code hammered out and get it to the council. If the majority's not in favor, we have a way different scenario.
I guess the other way to look at it is that we have a code on the table right now that wants to be presented to the council, and we'll get a good idea of how we vote on this code as well, whether or not the planning commission thinks it's suitable or not, right? So I don't want to keep kicking this can down the road. I just know where I stand. It's the council's final decision on this, and they'll gain our input from our commentary and what's on record for sure. But let them make the decision as the code's written. If they don't like it, they'll deny it.
Yeah, and part of it is that there's a few things with this code I want clarity on, but part of the clarity is going to be different if our direction is, our recommendations not to allow them. And so I'm more in Keith's boat that I'm not against them, right? I'm concerned about how they could be abused, but I'm not against them. And partially because if we go to 2 acres, I'm even less concerned, I guess. And so maybe we leave it at 2 acres. Mr. DeMuth, do you want to chime in and share your opinion here on specifically whether we should be allowing them or not, just for starters?
I think 2 acres, I'm okay with 2 acres. Anything less than 2 starts to get in this weird space of developers trying to make large lots when they put them in wetlands, and you really only have 0.19 acres or quarter acre that is usable. That's where I'm not okay with it. I am okay with them in principle. If you had 1 acre and it's fully flat and fully usable, I have no problem with it. But if it's 1 acre and 3/4 of your lot is wetland, I'm not okay with it. So that's kind of where I have I'm in this weird development mindset of how do we allow them but limit them.
John, do we have a definition of net versus gross acres in our code? Because if we did, we could easily, I'm fine with 2 acre net, which takes care of the wetland issue.
If we're going to go down that route, like I want to address that with all types of accessory buildings, so not specific to just shipping containers.
Do we currently allow accessory buildings to be built in areas designated as wetland?
No.
Not built in them,
Why would that change with this then?
Well,
I guess
but
I'm
it's using
missing
the area of
Yeah.
the property. It's allowing a wetland area to be calculated for the size of
Right,
the lot
I
to allow
understand
the
that.
accessory, but not built in the wetland.
Right.
Correct.
Is that what Peter was talking about?
Yeah, so he
Because I
doesn't want
misunderstood
to,
what he said.
there's a 2 acre lot in the corner of his development that is 75% wetlands, and so the yard that's usable is
much smaller.
is the same as every other yard in that development, but it's 2.08 acres. So if you count the wetland as part of the yard, usable yard, now you can have a storage container in that yard. But if we say you can't use wetlands, now they don't qualify. But
That seems like a difference without
yeah.
So,
It's very common though that
But-
people exclude wetlands from
I-
density calculations, a lot of things.
that makes sense. But let's say you've got 2 acres that's no wetlands.
You could have the 3rd acre surrounded by wetlands.
Well,
it'd be
no, what I'm
perfect.
going to say
It'd be
is,
private.
and by the way, that lower that's off the river road, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was there before was an absolutely butt ugly garage. But it would have met our requirements, and they cleaned it up and put that in there, and I thought that was actually an improvement. But if you have, no wetlands on 2 acres, you can still put that shipping container right next to your building. And let's say that 2 acres is 1.5 wetlands. you're still going to put that same shipping container right next to your building.
Doesn't change the location.
Yeah,
what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know that it, I mean, if they have the requirement, they can't put it on a wetland at the first place. I don't know what the differentiation between,
And as you
But so-
get bigger and bigger acreage, like 2, it becomes less of a concern on top of it.
yeah.
My recommendation is we do treat them the same as accessory buildings with the caveat that it starts at 2-acre parcels.
Yep. And
Because that takes care of all the new developments that have small parcels with a few bigger ones, and it still allows people with property to do as they will.
Yep. Okay. So the way the code is written in front of us, John, then, I agree with your blue text, except for I don't understand why we incorporated the ag districts, because this section is geared towards residential districts. I feel like that needs to be moved down into the ag district. I understand why we put it in there, because there's
Yeah.
single-family homes on 3 acres zoned A1, but I feel like that, the way we plopped it in here, if we're talking residential districts, why are we now mixing agriculture? Because the next section of the actual code is for agricultural districts. And it feels, so agricultural districts already exclude them, I believe. What did it say? No, they have way different requirements to begin with.
Yes.
But they still exclude currently containers, right?
No.
Even in ag districts?
They don't explicitly exclude them. I'm looking at it right now.
Well, I've got 2 opposing answers to that. An agricultural structure is allowed, we only look at setbacks. So it's an agricultural, if a shipping container is used for an agricultural purpose on an agricultural property, it's allowed.
Okay.
In our code, however, we don't allow shipping containers.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Our code doesn't,
Well,
does
that's
our
what-
code, our
that's
code has
what I
it
was
in the
saying.
residential
Yep.
districts, though. It doesn't say, everything about shipping containers, when I look at this code, I could see how it would interpreted that. It says they're not allowed in residential, or if they're not allowed in residential, commercial, or industrial. It's silent on ag. It very specifically says not in those ones, where it's silent on ag.
But that's the answer that I've always got from City Hall,
Right.
is that they're
not
not
allowed,
allowed
period.
anywhere in the city.
So maybe it
Including
was,
ag.
either we have a inconsistency somewhere else, or it was just misinterpreted. But either way, you can fix it.
So does this fix that, John? Just with the way you have it written here? So that there's no conflict? Is that one of the reasons you added ag in there? So that it was all treated the same?
It is, I mean, so as staff, we think of agricultural as being similar to residential use.
So this is where
It's
it
closer
says,
to residential than it is industrial and commercial.
What's the subdivision 2 under accessory structures?
Yeah.
So here where it says.
If we adopt this, do we have to
And then
change
this is
anything
where
in
we
the
get
ag section so that it's
into
not in
the
conflict?
Residential,
Yeah.
and they just say they're not allowed.
I don't
Which is what
believe
we're
so.
amending.
I can have the city
Down.
attorney review it.
Keep going down, and then it starts getting into the conditional use permits.
Yeah.
Now it starts getting into the specific districts.
Yeah.
So like when you read agricultural, it says nothing about storage containers. It's just silent on them. Not saying that, I'm not sure what that means. Like, this is the most
Subdivision.
important stuff.
Yeah, subdivision.
And then it has a separate one for residential districts, and again, the prior code said they're not allowed in residential, commercial, or industrial. But it doesn't say anything about agricultural.
But my point was, if we change this, then that overwrites the ambiguity of what it's talking about there, right? It specifically permits it in ag districts as well as residential.
Yes, and what I'm-
A certain size lot or
Yep.
not, whatever number we
Yep.
come to.
And what I'm suggesting to John is to move down in the subdivision 4 that deals with agricultural districts, what our requirements are of 2-acre minimum in, pretty much repeat what you're saying, but now you're just calling out the agricultural districts.
No, it's just duplicated in the 2 spots.
I don't,
In their appropriate
But
locations.
don't take out the A from the residential, because we're only talking about residential districts. We're talking zoning here, not uses.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah.
You can do that and accomplish the same thing, but when you're putting a contract together, you don't usually take the same language and plunk it in multiple different places. Because then if you want to change it in one, it'll get changed in three, and somebody will forget the fourth. If you're going to do that, what you should do in ag is see this subsection under general requirements.
Yeah, I think.
Then you only have to change it in one
The
spot.
problem is if
change
you're in
it.
ag, you just go look at ag.
No, but you would put in ag that you'd need to see this subsection in order to, so you wouldn't have to have multiple things multiple times in the ordinance. That's how they get to be 900 pages long, and you could do it in 300 pages.
I'll ask the city attorney to review for any conflicts.
Yeah.
But the 2 acre, I mean, I don't have an issue with that, like Paul said.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting point for
Yeah, and the only reason I say add it to the ag, when you read the ag has its own little section. It says on parcels of less than 1 acre, there shall be no more than 2 detached accessory structures, and the total area shall not exceed the footprint of the principal dwelling, which includes the garage attached to the principal dwelling. And so to me, this is a caveat for the ag district, is that metal storage containers are allowed too on 2 acre or greater parcels. That's why it belongs there, not in the residential district. And to me, if we're at 2 acres, I think that cleans it up. The three of us
It
that.
brings us into agreement anyway.
The three of us that are okay with it, at least, and Mr. Crossland, I'm not exactly sure where you stand, but Mr. Sergeant, I do know where you stand, thank you.
I try to be mysterious.
But, does that clear it up to you, John?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we're in favor of the code, I think we need to move some of that stuff to the appropriate district.
I should say this is a continuation of a public hearing. We do, nobody in the audience, we do have one person online.
And she's got her hand up.
Yeah.
It's a continuation. I'm a rookie at this, John.
Oh,
It's great to have the hammer down.
Doing well.
Marcia, if you'd like to speak. Marcia, if you could unmute. I'm sorry, I don't have anything. Okay.
It's all right, she just beats up on me when I get home.
You'll get that input later.
Well, if we do get volume, it's still open. John, do you know, what more do you need from us if we were to make a motion tonight? Do you think you have enough? Is everyone comfortable if we make a motion that, staff is gonna take and rework what we're talked about? I think I am.
Yeah, I am too, and I think what John's made a good point, that he should have legal look at it and see if, in fact, we need to do that in order to accomplish what we're trying to do. If we do, then do it. If we don't, then don't do it. So I'm comfortable with that.
So generally, the direction that I'm hearing, or the consensus, is 2 acres or more, and then we'll try to wordsmith it a little bit to remove any confusion.
Yep.
Yeah, and look close at the agricultural district, because it has its own standards on building materials, all that stuff too. And that's why I feel like if we just plop it in the residential, it needs to be in the agricultural too.
Sure.
Mr. Demuth, do you have any more to add?
I'm okay with what you guys have proposed.
Any more discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
We'll make a motion to recommend approval of the revisions to the accessory building ordinance as written, where it starts at 2 acres or more, and then follows the guidance of a standard accessory building, and then to direct staff to revise, or to review the ag district to make sure there's no conflicting information.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All right, before we I need to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Keith, I'm going to close it.
She's already mad at our equipment here, so. I don't know why.
It is 8:19. I'm going to close the public hearing. If there's no more discussion on this, we will take a roll call vote. We will start with Commissioner DeMuth.
Aye.
Commissioner Sargent.
No.
Commissioner Brown. Aye. Commissioner Grosslin.
Aye.
Commissioner Grover.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
4-1, correct.
Moving on to item 9A, notices and announcements.
Notices and announcements. I'll try to, always have quite a few, but I'll try to breeze through it. I was happy to notice last month when I asked how many commissioners had the Dayton app, I think everyone nodded, so great.
Not me. I didn't nod. You might have heard the rocks moving, but.
The wellhead treatment plant is operating, so this serves northeast Dayton. Had been under construction for a number of years, so we are all happy that it's working.
When do we get a tour?
That's a great question.
Start filling buttons.
Has there been any direct feedback yet from residents?
No, and that's the good sign.
Okay.
Yeah, so the bad sign is, my water color discoloration or smell and all that. So the fact that nobody notices it is a good sign. One thing that we've talked about as staff is possibly doing like an annual bus tour. And so that's something that maybe we'll talk about again for a budget item for next year.
If I could chime in on that, the city of New Hope does that for all commissioners, and it's a very well-attended event. I think even Jason might have attended one or two in the past. And it's well liked because commissioners like to see what, the fruits of their labor. And it's not just it's not just planning commission, we have other commissions too, but obviously city council members attend as well, and if the budget's there for it, I would recommend that the city shows off what they've been working on for the past couple of years.
Yeah. Good. What else? Dayton Play Place is every Tuesday at the Activity Center. We have Dice and Dominoes on the second and fourth Wednesdays at the Activity Center. We have an embedded social worker that is at the Dayton Police Department on third Wednesdays of the month or in the afternoons. This is for the public to use. Shared Water and Shared Future. This is a conglomerate that Three Rivers Park District is participating with to celebrate 100 years of, I can't call it reforestation or renewal, but essentially improvement to the Mississippi River. Community survey. So I don't know if any of you guys were lucky enough to receive this. Every 2 years, the city is conducting a community survey. This is a scientific survey that's conducted by Morris Leatherman. With a scientific survey, there's a random sample of 400 residents that will get a phone call. So I've heard numerous times of, I didn't get a phone call, can I give my opinion? And kind of politely, the answer is no, then it's not a scientific survey. So this is being conducted in late April, early May. The results should be available towards the end of May, early June.
How did the questions get
That's
set
what I
up?
was going to ask. What were the questions?
There's standard questions. So Morris Leatherman conducts opinion surveys. This is kind of what their business is. There are many cities that they ask similar questions to. There's kind of a standard question type. So this was presented to the council a couple of times. I don't remember how many questions there are, but I want to say it's like 70 or 80 or so.
It took me 45 minutes,
Oh, yeah.
but I was happy to do it.
Oh, good.
The councils do have the ability to put in their custom questions if they feel there's a hot button issue or they have a specific concern about a portion of their city or their services or whatever it is that they want a response from the residents of. So those are the pre-meetings with Morris Leatherman to get those specific questions in there. So they're not all the same from city to city. Some of them are customized.
Yes.
And our set is in the packet that we looked at that, which was
Yeah,
2 meetings ago.
we had questions related to public safety as well as organized garbage collection. I can't remember if
There's some about a referendum. The hardest part about the questions is it's good because some of them are pretty open-ended, but yet you almost feel like they're directing you away in a direction where, like, if they're asking you, are you comfortable with a $100 increase in taxes for X? And it's like, well, hold on, I might be comfortable with a $100 increase in taxes, but I want it for Y. You know, and that's just the whole issue because they only ask you about X.
We did change, because this irked me when we did our first one, changed it from taxes per month for a year.
Yeah, it's just all, everyone has different priorities, I get it, and it's just hard. I mean, to me, a good survey would be trying to figure out what is the priorities versus maybe just 2 issues that, you know, were asked about. As far as what would you pay more taxes for? Like A, B, C, or D.
Sure.
But anyway, it was still a good survey.
Yeah.
Very good.
This is going to be our second time conducting the survey. One of the big advantage of this is that, you know, the more often we do this, it kind of sets a baseline of how the community's opinions change over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are the survey questions confidential?
The questions are not,
Questions?
no.
Like I said, they're in the agenda. If you look it up on the online agenda
Okay.
from 2 meetings ago.
The answers are confidential.
Right, I understand
So,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
Mine will be pretty obvious. It'll be close. Just because I'm like,
We've read that book?
yeah, you've heard that story.
Mother's Day bouquet arrangements will be this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 at the Activity Center. The Dayton Open House will be next week on Wednesday, May 13th. I guess a question for the commissioners, if any of you would like to, do any of you want to attend, and then do any of you would like to man a booth and answer questions? And you can let me know. Citywide group.
The council's just going to attend at large. Is that what you guys decided?
Yeah, we're not going to sit at it.
Yep, and you can also do that too. Citywide garage sale.
Alone, I'm gonna get beat up.
No, you won't. I'll sit with you.
Citywide garage sale the weekend of June 3rd through 6th. Dayton Community Car Show, so 6 weekends throughout the summer. Adopt a Park, again, the expectation is, say, a family or individual that adopts a park is that you would clean up the park once a month. Flower containers at Old Town are available for sponsorships. This is $125 a year, so for anyone interested, please let me know. There's, I'm going to say, 1 scenery for summer and another scenery for winter. We also have sponsorship of dog treat stations, so this is a $780 donation. I can't read this at all. So we've had some conversations on social media of what are the regulations for e-bikes, and what we have on here, and you can't, the screen is partially covered. This is the state statutes of where they are allowed or not allowed. So in short, e-bikes are allowed on sidewalks and trails. I think that's probably what more of the question is.
What's the legal definition between an electric motorcycle and an e-bike?
I couldn't tell you.
At some point,
It says of the engine.
well, yeah, it is for mopeds, it's 49 cc's or higher, it's a motorcycle, but I just am curious if anybody knew what it was for electric vehicles.
It's 750 watts, but and you can convert that to horsepower, but it's My concern is, well, I don't know where to go with this, because if we have a 30-pound thing coming at you at 30 miles an hour, doesn't matter how many horsepower is in it.
Right.
It's going to hurt. And I don't know, but at the same time, they're pretty cool. So I just wish that they stay off the sidewalks. However, now you're putting kids on the roads. This is another lose-lose for making rules.
Welcome to my neighborhood. They're all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, and they're becoming more, and as the price drops, you're gonna see more and more of them. So.
A lot of them are like little motorcycles too. That
There's one, yeah, I seen one when I was at Darnack, and it looks identical to your dirt bike. And I doubt it was 750 watts, but it might have been. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
Election judges, the city is looking for election judges for the August primary and the November general election. Hennepin County has a household hazardous waste collection events, various locations throughout the county and then throughout the year. We just had one this past weekend in Dayton. Metropolitan Mosquito Control District is out and about spraying and treating waters and wetlands for mosquitoes and black flies and wood ticks. And they are also using drones. Elevate Hennepin, so this is in Hennepin County activity that the Dayton EDA sponsors. They have several programs to assist with entrepreneurs and small businesses. It does require that either the business or the business owner live in Dayton, or not in Dayton, live in Hennepin County. This EDA, it continues to market the Lent property in downtown Dayton. The EDA kind of went through a visioning exercise and came up with a mixed-use project. We've had a lot of investors that have had an interest in this, but not necessarily developers. So I think, again, the way that this is going to get developed, I think, is going to be word of mouth, where someone knows someone else that's...
When you say investors, like, what do you mean, users?
No. Like, I'm going to buy this today at a cheaper price and sell it tomorrow.
Oh, to buy the dirt. They
Yes.
don't want to develop it, they just want to buy the dirt.
Correct.
Got it.
The EDA also is marketing, EDA refers to this as the Triangle property. We do have a name for it now, Dayton Difference. So this is 6.6 acres located on Dayton Parkway and Territorial Road. So we've had quite a bit of interest in this for industrial uses, but we're also looking for commercial uses as well. So the EDA
Are we
is,
holding out for commercial because of the zoning? Are we?
it is zoned for commercial. The EDA is entertaining offers for both.
Can they entertain offers for both?
Yes.
What gives them the authority to change the zoning and land use plan?
Nothing. So if, for example, it is zoned for, believe it's B3 general business. If a buyer purchased this intending it for industrial, they would have to go through an entitlement phase. So rezoning, site
I would
plan.
highly encourage the city and EDA to work together, because if that, whatever use we want, that's how you market it. When you market it open-ended like this, I mean, yeah, I would encourage that the city planning commission, city council, EDA, everybody come up with what we think is the highest and best use, not let other people decide. That's my take on it, because we will be deciding on something in a way that maybe is more hostile versus this is just what we think is best for there.
Okay.
Meaning someone's going to have an applicant site plan, spent money, and we're going to be sitting here telling them yes or no, if it's industrial. So I think that most cities do it the way I'm talking about. They have an RFP and they've already got everything figured out about what they're going to allow there and not allow there. So
It's currently guided commercial, right?
Commercial,
Yeah.
yes.
and I'm not even saying it should stay commercial. I just think the process shouldn't be that we're deciding.
Plus, you put some pressure on us, so
Yeah.
EDA gets a great proposal for industrial use and wants to sell it as industrial, and then the pressure's back on the city council and the planning commission, whoever it might be, to make it happen.
And they can sell this for industrial all day long. So the question, and that's the whole thing, is I'd rather not be sitting, looking at a site plan and telling them that because they've spent, $50,000 or $100,000 already planning it, that, yeah, no, we're not in favor of it. Or maybe we are. I think that's a discussion, and we don't have to necessarily re-guide it and rezone it, but it's a discussion that council should be giving direction to the EDA of whether they're in favor of it, and maybe that starts with the planning commission. It shouldn't just start with the market.
Sure. So since we're on the topic, it's guided commercial, it's zoned for commercial. Does the commission have any disagreement that commercial is the highest and best use?
My take on it is we'll be waiting longer for commercial use, but it's also the site with good access coming off the freeway, that if we're going to hold out for commercial use, it's why the Turbine Pros, I was in favor of rezoning that from commercial to industrial. It had absolutely horrendous access. And if you're going to have a commercial use, you need good access for cars to get in and out. So from that perspective, but again, you're going to be waiting longer for commercial use. Maybe a long time. I don't know. Where an industrial use, you probably won't be waiting very long at all.
Okay, that doesn't give me.
That doesn't give you a great answer.
Well, but it would be nice to see
The answer
something
is
other
it
than
depends.
another warehouse building or another
Yes.
factory right there. I mean,
It's an industrial area.
It's an industrial area, but it's a
Yeah.
very prominent spot, so it'd be nice to see something other than just another industrial building.
Yep.
And hold out for something commercial. It's got a lot of traffic there, and we'll just keep having more.
And Peter, I don't know if you had any comments or not.
I agree. I mean, I think if we can get, I'm okay with an industrial use, but I don't want another Turbine Pros.
Right. You'd like an industrial use, correct me if I'm wrong, that is office facing Dayton Parkway with the loading in the rear and maybe even up, a higher percentage of office. So it's likely a manufacturer.
Yeah. Higher percent of office is probably the right way to go.
It's a perfect piece of property, no matter what you want to put there, industrial or commercial.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any argument, at least from my standpoint, of why we wouldn't let someone build either of those there if that's what they came to us with.
And I would generally support industrial because it's always going to be we're not going to get a lot of highway traffic coming off there to stop and go shopping when you've got Maple Grove and even when you got what Rogers has. We're just not going to have it. And so that's where part of me says that we should probably let it just be industrial. That's what it wants to be, but. So now the next question is, do we want to dictate the type of industrial? Because that's the beauty when the EDA's marketing something is we can have a very specific RFP that says this is the type of industrial and see if the market can meet that demand, meaning more office.
So again, the EDA is entertaining offers to sell this property. What we're asking for anyone that's wants to submit a letter of intent is that it also includes not just a price on the property, but a proposal of how it's going to be developed and what the use would be.
So the county, or it's all cleared? It's all?
Yes.
It's all
Yes.
ready to go? Yeah. Has anybody shown any interest yet?
We've had 2 offers so far.
Offers?
Within a month, yeah.
Yeah, assuming industrial-ish.
I'm going to say 1 industrial and 1 kind of quasi-industrial. Could be industrial or commercial.
Interesting.
Anything else on this? Nope, okay. It's my favorite shirt. We are hiring. We've posted an opening for both a city planner and associate planner, although we only have the intent of hiring 1 position. So we're looking for either one, and we'll hire the best candidate for either position. Applications close May 28th.
Be getting a few applications.
4 so far as of today, and that's since I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, today's Thursday. Can't see the end of the bar graph here. We had 24 houses built last year, or last month in April, so we are on an upswing. Generally speaking, I'm going to say over the last 3 years, we've averaged roughly 20 houses a month. You know, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. The next planning commission meeting will be Thursday, June 4th at 6:30 p.m.
Before we adjourn, John, did I see an invite for Graco's groundbreaking?
Yes.
Was that on the 12th? Or when is that? Do you
I
remember?
can't
Is it
remember what,
Saturday
it
morning?
is next week.
It's the 12th at like 10 maybe? Am I right on that?
You are 100% right. 10 a.m. on 12th.
So I would appreciate it for any commissioners that are able to attend that.
Make a motion to adjourn 30 minutes after the agenda estimate. Not too bad.
No, that's good.
Not too bad.
A second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Roll call.
I was going to do that.
Jeez.
Peter said aye, I saw him.
What time did you say this, Jim? 10?
All right. Perfect.
Aye.
Are we doing?
What time did you say that was?
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, it is at 10 a.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.